So let's take a look at how to route our tracks. So depending on the location or the campus that you're at, you might have more routing options because of the size of the board, like at front of house, depending on the interface that we're using. So we'll look at two different ways to how to do this. So let's look at not be moved. We'll open that up. What we've done is we've taken all of these songs in the set, Not Be Moved, Raise a Hallelujah, Stronger, and we've actually routed each of these individual set of tracks in the songs to a bus. Now, for those of you that have used Ableton or Logic or Pro Tools or anything like that, you'd be familiar with what buses are. So all a bus does is it takes the signals from multiple locations and routes it to one area for ease of functionality, whether you want to add an effect or you want to be able to control a group at one time. So in this case, we're basically controlling groups at one time. So we've created these buses right here. Now there's no tracks in the buses. We're just using these as group controls basically. So if you go over to the other look in Ableton, so we've been in arrangement view this whole time. Let's click this little icon and go to session view. So you can also click tab on the keyboard, and I'll just do that for my shortcut's sake here. But this serves the same thing. You can click this back and forth and see the two views, or you can hit tab and go both ways. So let's look in session view for this. So what we've done with the buses is we've routed each song's individual tracks to a bus. So I'm going to collapse buses, and I'm going to look at Not Be Moved real quick. So Not Be Moved has master, click, guide, drums, bass, guitars, keys, and vocals. It's got the majority of what we will want to do here. What we've set up is we've set up a way of busing the drums to this bus. It's capital drums with the number 3 next to it, meaning what I have done is I've taken the drums from Not Be Moved, and I'm actually sending, you can see I'm under audio 2. Audio 2, I'm sending the audio to somewhere. Sorry, that's guide. I'm sending audio 2 from the drums of this song to the bus over here of the 3 with capital drums. So I'm sending that signal from that song to here. Now I've actually done that on everything for this song. The click track, same thing here. You want to make sure that it's set to number 1 with capital click track, guide, number 2, capital guide, all the way through each one of these. Now if you look, like something like organ has its own bus, because sometimes you might have an organ player, sometimes you might not have an organ player depending on the situation, so you want to be able to control the organ as a group. Same thing with guitars. You might have an acoustic player, you might have a lead or a rhythm. Hopefully you can have 1 or 2 guitar players to be able to pull this off, so you can turn different sections on and off. So what I've done is we've bussed all of the individual instruments and sent them over here. So I'll collapse Not Be Moved, and I'll show you the same thing in Raise a Hallelujah. You can look across the audio 2s. Click track, guide, drums, loop. All of these are sent to loop perk, okay? And I'll show you why that's important here in a second. Like perk, loop, and effects are all sent to loop, perk, and effects, not to drums. Even though it's the same number, I do not want to send it to drums. Same thing with bass. Bass actually has bass and synth bass. If it's a bass, I want to send it to bass, not synth bass, even though it's the same number. And that's important here in just a minute as well. Stronger, same thing. I've mapped all these. You've got guitars and piano and strings and your vocal and choir. Now it's important looking at the vocals that if it's an actual vocal like a BGV or a choir part, or whatever it is, to send to choir, not to the vocal effects, because a lot of times songs will have these cool vocal chops and vocal effects. I still want to listen to those. So I want to leave that. I want to send those to vocal effects. So now at our buses, this is where we can turn groups of of them on and off. So say you go to a rehearsal and you have a full rehearsal. You want to leave your click track on and your guide on, but you have a drummer. Let's turn off drums. And you have a bass player. Turn off your bass. Let's say you have an acoustic player. You also have a lead player and a rhythm player, or somebody who is able to carry both parts. You can turn off your lead and rhythm. Now your EG auxiliary might be some of those extra guitars that kind of sound more synthy or kind of more of background noise. You might want to leave those on just so you can add a little more texture. You have a piano player. So I'm going to turn off piano. We're going to leave organ on just to say you don't have an organ player this day. We'll leave organ on. You have all the vocal parts are covered. Maybe you've got a choir, maybe you've got lots of background, or even if you only have 5 vocals, you probably are covering most of the parts. Let's turn that off. But we want to leave our vocal effects on. So if I go back to arrangement view and I click Raise a Hallelujah, let's start Raise a Hallelujah. Okay, I'm going to press start.
Intro, 2, 3, 4.
You don't hear anything. Well, the reason is you've got that part covered live and you've turned off
Verse 1.
the lead and rhythm guitars. Right? We turn them off over here in the buses. You'll see in this little meter in the lead and the rhythm, something is playing. If I turn them on, okay, there's your guitars. They're back in. I can turn them off. But what's great is I'm not just turning that off just for one song. With the buses, I have turned off all the guitars for all the songs. So you don't have to go through individually. What's great here is you do not have to go through and you turn off the leads and the rhythms for Raise a Hallelujah and then the leads and the rhythms for all of Stronger. So we've found a way here to basically group our instruments from each song together more easily. So say you're at a rehearsal, you have everybody but your drummer. You can still have a rehearsal. You just click this back on, turn your drums on, and you could go, let's just fast forward in the song a little bit. The drums are there. Okay. We have a little bit of auxiliary guitar. We can turn the auxiliary off. Kind of a little ambient. You can hear it. We can still have a rehearsal. Guitars back in. So you can still have a rehearsal and just fill in the missing parts with the instruments that are not there by turning the buses on and off down here. Now they will be blue, so they'll look a little different than the traditional yellowish orange color. So just be aware of that when you're looking at it. And you should be good to go with the buses.